Hey, you've made it to the podcast Recovery Captured, hosted by me, Shannon Louise, a certified recovery coach and self-verified addict. Join me on my journey through my recovery from mind-altering substances, eating disorders, depression, and much, much more. During this podcast, you'll hear my personal experience, thoughts, and opinions, as well as my guests' stories through their own recovery. I hope that you're able to take something away from this podcast and use it as a tool to help you see that your story is picture perfect. Get into it. So, I have Miss Rachel here, and we're gonna get into our goods. What are you in recovery for? How long have you been in recovery? And what is a fun fact about you?
All right. I am in recovery I was a heroin addict for 10 years. I'm, almost 3.5 years sober. And a fun fact that everybody knows, I love dogs. I love them so much. Probably too much. But yeah, I don't know what I would do without them. My doggies.
I know, and tell us their names.
Oh, Ivan and Dinah.
Dinah.
Ivan is a Great Dane and Dinah's a pit bull. And I love them with my whole soul.
It's like your kid.
Yeah. Tim, my boyfriend, is like, you can't treat Ivan like a human. He's a dog.
Since when?
Since when? That's right. Since when? He's my fur baby.
That's what these are.
They're
Look
great.
At them.
They're so awesome. They make life and my good days better, my bad days bearable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they make everything better.
They really do.
They do.
It's a great fun fact.
Good fun fact.
It is. I like it. All right, so we want to get into your story.
All right.
Kind of like what it was, what happened, and what it's like now.
Oh, all right. I don't know where to start. Ooh, I'm nervous. That's weird.
All right. That's all right.
I don't think I've ever, I can hear it in my voice. I don't think I've ever really talked about it. Because it's not a part of my life anymore. It defined who I am now, but it doesn't define me.
Right.
Like, you know?
Yep.
It started out, it's crazy. So I bartended. I got my first bartending job when I was like 18. Like the day I turned 18, I started bartending, and I was young and everybody drank, and very quickly I was introduced to oxys and pills, and I was like, oh, I can do this and feel awesome and not feel like shit in the morning. Mm-hmm. So that kind of, I don't know, for a couple years, it wasn't a problem. It was just something that I did. And then I remember it like it was yesterday. A girlfriend of mine, she was like, she had gotten heroin, and we tried it. And we puked all night. We were so sick. We were so high, but we were so sick. And then I hadn't done it. I don't think I did it again for a year. And same story as a lot of people. I did 80s, and they affected my life, but they didn't make it like unbearable. Mm-hmm. And then 80s came off the market. They were bad. We had to get, drug companies had to get rid of them. And I was introduced to heroin. And one thing my mom always told me, she was like, don't drink and drive, don't do drugs, and don't do heroin. And I was like, oh, the magic, don't do it. And
you did it.
And I did it. Yeah. And that was I don't remember what year it was. It was probably 2008 and November, 2008 and November. And I did it. And January, I was in rehab. So
It just took
2 months. I was like, what the fuck? My friends were shooting up. I was like, I don't want to be this person. I don't want to do this. It went from fun to unbearable. I was terrified. And I remember I went to Maple Leaf. I went to rehab. And I was surrounded by these people that had lost their kids. They had the prostitution, like all these horrible things. And I remember sitting in that chair. I was having a grand time. I looked amazing. It hadn't ruined my body or my life, And I sat there and I judged everybody. I was like, I'm never going to be like that. I'm never going to be that person. And then I got out of rehab and I had no idea the problem. I had no idea what it was like to be a drug addict. There was nobody in my life who I had ever experienced anything like that before. I was sober for a couple months and I relapsed. I hung out with my old friends and got back into it. And then that was it. Everything that I said that I would never do, every finger that I pointed in that room when I was in rehab, I did it all of it. I did all the things that I thought that those people were disgusting, that they were losers, that, I did it all, and it ruined my life.
And that was for 10 years.
10 years. I mean, there was like on and off. I put together not much sobriety. Towards the end, let's see, if I'm 3 years, probably 6 years ago, I put together like 9 months. I put together 3 months. I've been to rehab 10, 15 times, and I'd get out and I'd do well. But very quickly, I would spiral out of control. And
is it because every time you went back to the heroin?
Oh, yeah, every time. It was like, it was something I couldn't control. And there were so many other things that came into play of my relapsing that I see now that I had no idea. I had no idea it was a problem or no idea that I should stay away from it. The warning signs, any of it. But today, sitting back, being 3.5 years, which isn't much, but it's huge to me.
It is huge.
We were just talking. So it's, well, sorry. I'll go back a little bit. I got in trouble in October of 2018. I think that's right. Like big trouble. Like I got caught with a ton of drugs. I went on the run. Lowest point in my whole life. I went from, there were like multiple stages in my drug addiction that was, I'm making a mistake. I need to fix this. And then not being able to do it. And then there was a point in my recovery where I lost everything, my son included, my custody, my marriage, and then slowly getting it back and then relapsing again. And at the end, I was at a point where I didn't care. I didn't care. I didn't care about anything. And I remember at the end, right before I checked myself into the last rehab that I went to, I was, let's see, I'm 30, I'm going to be 37. So it was like 35, 34, like 33, 34. I'm on the run. I'm sleeping on couches. I don't have a home. I don't have a relation. I have nothing. And I was like, I'm too old for this shit. Like, I'm too old to be doing this. Like, but I didn't care. And so I was in a ton of trouble. I knew at some point I was going to go to jail. Like I was going to get caught and I was going to go to jail. And I did not want to detox in jail. That was my goal. You know, I was so terrified. That was my goal at that. I had one goal, and that was to not detox in jail. So I was determined. I was on the run. I did everything that I needed to do to not get caught by police, and I checked myself into rehab. I went to Valley Vista in Virgins. And when I went to rehab, and this was kind of like an aha moment for me now, not then, but now, I threw drugs away in that gas station. I had so much drugs on me that I couldn't do them all. I would have overdosed in the bathroom, and I threw them all away. I flushed them down the toilet, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to rehab, and I'm going to do everything that I need to do. I'm not going to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to spend the rest of my life in jail. There was a huge sentence. And I was terrified. I was so scared, but the life that I had been living for so long, I was so numb to like any emotion or dealing with anything. I don't really think I knew what I was doing. I don't think that I knew what I was signing up for. I didn't have any goals. I just knew I didn't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
So I did that rehab for 30 days, like any other rehab. I had one time before I had lived in a sober house for a couple weeks. I had relapsed and got kicked out or left or something. So I'd never really done the sober house thing. I had never really given it a try or anything. So I had finished the month at rehab. I had talked with you. I had a bed and I was ready to move in, but I still had all this jail stuff. Like I was still on the run. So my mom picked me up at Valley Vista, and she drove me to the courthouse. And I was terrified, but I thought I was good. Like, I had a bed waiting for me at a good sober house that, you know, Chittenden County, that they knew of, that the court system would say this is, you know, a reliable, you know, safe place. I had completed rehab. I had been signed up for the MAP program, you know. So I didn't think that I was going to have to go to jail. And so we drove to the courthouse, and I turned myself in. And right there, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I thought I was going to be okay. And right there, I got arrested. Like, and I was so scared. I was so scared. And I didn't know what was going to happen. So I got arrested right there. They had a court hearing that day. I sat in the holding cell at the courthouse. And I went in front of the judge, and my mom was there. And the judge said, I don't want you to go to jail, but because of your life, I had, you know, acquired other, you know, I had done things that, you know, weren't great. And I had been in trouble before. This wasn't my first rodeo.
Right.
And she said, you know, you're kind of a flight risk. And she put bail on me for, I think it was $5,000. And I was like, that was it. I was done for. I was going to go to jail, and I was going to spend 30 years in jail. My life was over. Because my mother, not to sound negative, she wasn't going to bail me out. My mother, never in a million years, she had done apartments, cars, all kinds of stuff to try to help keep me sober or whatever. She was not going to bail me out of jail. And so I went to jail that day, and they checked me in and all of that or whatever. And I remember sitting there, and a woman came to get me because I was going to be moved. And this was just one day. This was the one day that I, you know, went from the courthouse there. It was the same day. And a guard came to get me, and she said, I thought they were going to move me into general population. I had never spent really any time in jail before, like a night. And she was doing like all this paperwork. She came to get me and she asked me if I wanted Narcan. And I was like, why would I want Narcan? And she was like, well, just in case. And I was like, no, I don't need any Narcan. She asked me again. And I said, are drugs really a problem in general population? Like, am I really going to be like surrounded by drugs? And she was like, no, for when you leave. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, I'm doing your release paperwork. Your bail was posted. And I was like, I was bawling. I didn't know what happened. I had no idea I was going to get out. 5 minutes before that, I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life in jail. Like, that my life was over. But my mom paid my bail, and she paid everything that needed to be paid to move into the sober house. And I came showing up at 82 Suburban Square. Is that the address? 82? Yeah, I think so. At Suburban Square, and that was the start. And I know that there's probably hours and hours of my horrible drug-addicted life, but I don't live there anymore.
No, and I feel like when people ask me about like what it was like when I was using it, I'm like, I don't fucking remember. Like, not because I was blacked out. Yes, I was blacked out, but it's also like it's so far away.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. No, and even like this 3.5 years, it's so different from before. And yeah, it was bad. Anybody that's ever struggled with drug addiction, especially heroin, anything, like there isn't anything that you probably don't already know.
Right.
It's fucking horrible. It's bad. You make bad decisions. And then you make a decision one day, and hopefully you don't do that anymore. So I showed up, and everything from that moment on, I don't know. I don't like to toot my own horn or say God did this or anything, but it was like, from that moment, things have lined up for me. And that's it. I'm grateful. I'm not going to say it's one thing or another because I actually have no idea. But I know that there was in the beginning, I was on probation, and there was for a whole year, there was court stuff. And I did everything that I needed to do. I knew that when I showed up for that last court date, the judge couldn't say, or the state's attorney couldn't say, oh, well, if you did this, maybe we would have released you. Right. Or if you did that, or, we'll check back in 30 days if you complete this program. I did it. I did all of it. I made sure not to lie, steal. I made sure I went to counseling every week. I did everything that I was supposed to do, and I made it. It was a goal, a doable bucket list.
That's right.
Which I got from you. And lo and behold, almost a year later, I went to court, and the state's attorney, TJ Donovan, he congratulated me, and he said, you've done everything that you needed to do. And that was it. I got 5 years probation. And still until that point, I didn't know. I didn't know there was a possibility that I was going to show up to that court date, and they were going to say, you have to serve 5 years, you have to do this, you have to do that. But I got 5 years probation. And that was it. Don't do drugs, and make the right choices, and don't get in trouble. And thankfully, I've done that. Right. So yeah, sober living was huge. I lived at Suburban Square for 11 months. 11.
Was it 11?
Yeah, it was 11 months. And it was great. It sucked. It was, I lived in a house with 5 women. 5 strangers. I made some great friendships. I'm tried to make the best out of the situation. Not that it was bad. I lived in a beautiful house, in a great location. I don't really have anything bad to say about it. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
To say that.
Huh?
I paid her to say that. No,
yeah, I mean, it wasn't rainbows and butterflies, but I was really, really lucky. Really, really lucky.
So why did you follow all of the requirements and all of the suggestions this go around and not the first time?
So I don't really have an answer. I actually wasn't told to do. The only thing that I was told to do was don't do drugs and don't break the law. Everything else, I made the decision to do it.
Right.
I signed up for counseling. I went every week on the same day. I never missed my appointment. I had an awesome counselor. Yeah. I just did everything that I thought. In the beginning, obviously, it was for selfish reasons. I did everything that I could think of that could be praised. That, the state's attorney or the judge could be like, oh, good job,
Right, adding stuff to a tally so that you got all your ducks in a row so you don't go back to jail.
Exactly.
Right?
So they could see that I was trying.
Good, yeah.
And thankfully, I didn't have a past of trying those things and failing, So the judge wasn't like, oh, well, you've done this 10 times and haven't completed it. Yeah, I did everything that was asked of me. I changed the way that I thought about things. Like we talked earlier, who I was, what I did, how I thought, I did whatever I could to change that. I mean, I still have my core values. I still have my morals. I have always had that. Those didn't change, but if I saw somebody that I knew from my using days, I would walk in the other direction. I would do whatever I could to stay away from it. Everything. I did everything I could. I would wait an extra 30 minutes to take another bus. I was not mean to people, but I was super selfish, and yeah, I did me. I did me.
It brought you far.
Yeah.
But you did you in a healthy way, because I feel like you could say that when you were using drugs. You know what I mean? Like you did you when you were using, but
of course, in a different way.
Yeah.
In a different way.
Such a healthy way.
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that not everybody is handed the same path. I don't think for a second that somebody that's struggling with drug addiction today decides to not use drugs anymore and does the next right thing is going to have an outcome like mine. Things just lined up. Things lined up for me. There were some hardships that I had to deal with in the beginning that were scary and traumatic and that I had to overcome. And there were things that I knew that I couldn't, I don't even know how to explain it, that I couldn't change. There was some trauma, there was hurt, there were things that I was gonna have to carry with me that were never gonna go away. For instance, one of them being the fact that I lost custody of my son, while I was using. I'm still to this day fighting to get my custody back. My son is about to turn 13. I don't know if I'll ever get it back, but I see him every week and I talk to him multiple times a week, and him and I have a relationship. We've always had a relationship, but not the way it is now, of course. And in my eyes, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
He's 13. He goes to school in a different county and stuff like that. But him and I have a relationship, and I see him very often.
Right.
At the end of the day, a piece of paperwork that says he's 50% mine and I make 50% of the decisions, it's important, but it's not.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So there was trauma and things that had happened in my life while I was using that I knew that they were going to stay with me. I was going to carry those with me. But everything else, I had to change my thought process. I had to be grateful. And I'm still reminded daily, sometimes weekly, to be grateful.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, the first 3 months at the sober house, I was grateful for everything. I was like probably obnoxious. Bumper sticker. I remember in house meeting, the girls would make fun of me. They're like, oh, here's Rachel being grateful for, not stubbing her toe or whatever, right? But today, driving here, my gas light came on and I got off the interstate and I pumped a tank full of gas and I got a coffee and whatever else I wanted. And I could do that. And I had money to do that. And I didn't have to stop at the grocery store to steal something, to return it, to get cash, to buy $5 in gas or something. Mm-hmm. Life is easier. Life is doable. It's happy. And I know that I have the life that I have today because of the hard work that I've done, but also because I have the support of my family, but my home life isn't traumatic and drama, and it's easy. It's wonderful. It's safe. It's love. It's nice. Mm-hmm. A huge part of my recovery in the beginning was working. I don't know if you remember this, but I do, because it was like a feel-good moment. So we were given, I can't remember, 2 weeks to get a job, or a week or whatever, from the point that you move in, or you had to pay your rent. That was the thing. And if you didn't work, then you had to do free work, volunteer, community service, and that wasn't happening. My how I changed my thought process wasn't there yet, and I wasn't working for free. So I got a job. It was it wasn't a great job, wasn't a bad job, and I did that. I don't know. I had that job for 6 months, 5-6 months, and it was drama. The girls there were petty and
what was it?
Greer's.
Oh my
the dry
God,
cleaning
how
place.
did I forget?
Yeah. So it was drama. The girls were, it was just, it was a toxic place to work. But so that came to an end one day. There was a dispute, and pretty much I wasn't going to bow down and let somebody treat me like crap. Mm-hmm. And I spoke out about it. And that was pretty much like, you no longer have a job here. For months and at will state, if I don't like you, you don't have a job. That's kind of how it works. Mm-hmm. And that day, I applied for a ton of jobs. I went on Craigslist and I applied for a ton of jobs. And I don't know if it was the same day or the very next day, I had a job interview to go work at the Spirit at Ethan Allen. This was the moment I remember you saying, like, holy shit, you already have a job, like within a day. Mm-hmm. And I could tell that you were proud of me. I was proud of me. It was like
I was definitely questioning it. I was like,
moment.
What the fuck is happening? Is this really, are you like bullshitting me?
Right.
They would, people would spoon feed me
bullshit
all day and day.
Right.
So I was like, is this one of them, or is she?
Like, how does she
fucking doing good?
Right. How did she get, lose a job and get a job in one day?
Yep.
So, and that was another thing that lined up. It was great. Mm-hmm. So I was a bartender, which I at first was like, oh shit, can I do this? And I remember asking you and Andrew, like, can I bartend? And they're like, yeah, you can do that, but is that safe for you? Like, can you be around alcohol? And alcohol was never an issue for me. And so I was like, yeah, I definitely can do this. it was the best job I have ever had in my whole life.
Aw.
Every day I got to be out on Lake Champlain, beautiful sunsets. It was awesome. But not only visually was it awesome and cool, there was no, I don't even know how to say it. There was no like, after your shift, you have a shift drink. There was none of that. There was no drug use because it was everyone, well, all the people who were U.S. citizens were vetted by the Coast Guard, and like there was no drug use, no drinking, no nothing. You came to work, you did a job, you went home. You did it all over again. So that was really important and made my life easier. And the shifts were really long. They were like 13, 14, 15-hour shifts. I worked my ass off, but I got paid really good money. And it put me very quickly in a place where I was able to save money, which was huge. Oh my gosh. I remember the first time I had $500 in my bank account, and then I had $1,000, and then I had $3,000, and it kept growing. And that was a huge part of my recovery, to be able to save money and to have that nest egg. My mom called it your oh shit fund, you know. I was okay. No matter what happened going forward in my life, once I had started saving money, I was going to be okay. If I had to move out of the sober house or I had to get my own apartment, I could do it. So
Now, having that much money, or just having some amount of money in a savings account, did that ever once trigger you to want to
I was
use
careful.
drugs? Yeah,
I was
because
super
know-
careful.
Yeah, some of my coachees are hesitant about holding on to their money because they know that if they have it, they will use it.
Yeah.
To buy
No.
drugs.
Huge. And the beginning, it was, I don't know if I would say like a struggle, but there was like that little reminder like, oh, you could buy drugs, but really quiet. That voice was getting quieter and less and less and less. But there was, I still have the same bank account through TD. And so I would leave the boat and I would drive up the hill on Main Street, and there was a TD right there. And every night before I came home to the house, I would deposit all of my cash.
Thank God.
All of it. Every night. It was
Thank
like
God.
a ritual. Straight up, it was a ritual. Because we got, at the end of each night, we were paid. And that was something that I made sure that I did.
Yeah.
It was a little bit easier at the point because I didn't want to have hundreds and hundreds of dollars in a house full of women that I didn't really know. So, yeah,
No
it was
way
huge.
getting that back.
Wasn't going to get that back.
Oh.
There was lots of excuses if it went missing. So yeah, I had a great job. Things were moving forward. In May, so let's see, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. 6 months. I was about 6 months sober. I bought a car. That was huge. That was so huge. I don't know how I did it. I don't know what stars aligned for me to do it, but I bought a car by myself. Nobody co-signed for me. A couple people helped me with the down payment. Somebody that helped me with the down payment, not even a month ago, I paid them back.
Aw.
Yeah. And I said, you know what? I owe you money. And he was like, you don't owe me money. Like, you're sober. I know what it's like. He's in recovery. You paid me back. Or you don't owe me. You don't have to pay me back. But I was like, no, I don't want to be one of you can edit that. You don't have to pay me back, but I was like, no. Unfortunately, in my life today, I have very few friends, and I have not been graced with the opportunity of people paying me back, unfortunately. And I didn't want to be one of those people. I didn't want him to think of me and say, oh, that's another one that didn't pay me back. So I paid him back, which is great.
Wow.
But things lined up, and I was able to get a car. And that was that like accomplishment that was huge. And I didn't look back, man. That was it. Probably a week after my car, I had another aha moment. And there was like a little bit of, it wasn't easy for me to get a car because my credit was shit. I didn't have a long job history. I kind of like, by the grace of God, kind of got everything together so I could get a loan. Huge interest, like, but I got it. I got a letter in the mail. I was having, of course, a shit day. Like everything that could go wrong, it was going wrong. I was having a bad day. And then I got a letter in the mail that pretty much said, actually, your loan, it's not going to go through. So the letter pretty much made it sound like I was going to have to give my car back. I didn't know, like a week before that had come up, it had already been solved. Like they had already fixed that problem, and that was a letter
that came previous.
That came like it came late.
Right.
The problem had already been resolved, but I didn't know that. And I call my mom and I'm like, fuck all this. Like I work my ass off and I can't catch a break. And in my mind, I couldn't catch a break, even though looking back today, I was catching lots of them. This is bullshit. I was so defeated that day, that moment. And my mom was like, Rachel, like, life happens. Bad things happen. It's okay. And up until that point, whether it was like I didn't see it or didn't believe it, or I thought that everybody was sober, their life was grand, you know, and there weren't problems. Things just happened. She was like, just like life happens. Shitty things happen and it's okay and you'll move on. And that was kind of, I think that was the beginning of a change that I started to really do my best to not let moments in my day and my week really like take a hold of me and crush me quickly. Because like, I think the next day I made a phone call and I called and they were like, oh no, it's fine. You're good. You don't have to return the car. It's your car. You got the loan. You're paying for it. You're fine.
Right.
But if it was 6 months prior, that would have crushed me. Yes. I would have used.
Everything was catastrophized.
Of course.
Everything was blown out of proportion.
Always.
So fucking dramatic. When I first got sober, my mentor's like, it doesn't need to be drama.
Right.
But she's like, you literally feed into all this drama.
And that's foreign thinking in the beginning, to like not react in the moment, to be able to step back. And today I don't let things crush me. I don't. I know there are going to be moments in my life, events that I'm going to have to go through. And I know what they are. I like pre-planned for them as much as I can, that they might crush me. But I hope that every day I gain more and more and more sobriety and more time. And I'm not going to use. That's something that I've completely moved away from. And I know that everybody's story is different, and that's not the same for everybody that has 3.5 years, that has 5, that has 10. You know, I never know what's going to happen.
Right.
But today,
it's not an option.
Yeah. I'm not going to go use drugs. And I know that like there are bumper sticker slogans for AA, NA, and stuff like that may say otherwise, but I'm not using tomorrow. I've moved so far away from that life that it's not even a possibility. Like I don't know anybody.
Right.
So I know people, right, that I see on Facebook that I know are clearly using or not doing well. But there are no moments in my life today where it would be easy or accessible to use drugs or to go back to that lifestyle. But that's because of the choices that I made.
Right.
You know, those are because of the things that I did and the life that I live today. And like I said earlier, it's easy. My life today I'm right. It's not easy. It's not, again, perfect, but compared to what it was,
It's easy.
it really is.
Yeah.
I'm in a relationship with this amazing man who I love more than anything in the whole world. And he makes my life easy. There's like, I don't think I ever realized what it would be like to have a partner that makes your life better. Where
He
you don't,
enhances it.
Yeah.
He adds to it.
It's crazy and it's so awesome. I don't have to struggle with that. There's no fighting. I think I've called him a jerk. God's honest truth, can say that I've been with this man for almost 3 years. I think this spring will be 3 years or whatever. He's never called me a name. He's never swore at me. He's never called me stupid or a bitch or never. And I think the worst thing that I've said to him, I would say a jerk, but maybe like you're being an asshole. I don't even know. I don't even know if I've said that to him. So,
where before in other relationships.
oh my God. Toxic. And I think it is so hard for me to keep my business to myself, to keep my comments to myself, because sometimes I see other women struggling in relationships, and I just I want to shake them.
Yes.
And say, you don't have to or you have to listen to me. You need to walk away. Don't continue another second of your life with this person who you think you love or loves you, any of it, because it's toxic and it's ruining your life. One of my exes, actually two, I make my own decisions. I was a drug addict because of the choices that I made and the things that I wanted to do. But those relationships, they made it hard to be sober, to want to be sober, you know? Yeah. It's it's crazy. Reflection, and to be able to have such a traumatic, horrible life for so long, and then to have the life that I have today, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's I should pinch myself. Or sometimes I get, anxiety, or I don't know, I want to poke it, to pop it to see if it's real, to be is this really,
Right.
is this really my life? You know what I mean? Not that it's so great and grand and perfect, but it's so unbelievably different from the life that I was living for so long.
Right. And 3 years ago, could you imagine that you would be where you are now?
It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's not impossible. Anybody who may or may not listen, who may listen to this, right? Who's struggling, who has a month, who has no sobriety time, that's this is it. This is going to be my life. I'm not worth anything. I could never have a life like that.
You just got to do it.
You just got to do
right?
it. You just got to do it.
We were talking about that before. You just got to do it. Just take that next step. Hopefully it's that next right step.
Yeah.
But you just have to do it.
Yeah.
There's no more excuses. There's no more, side chatter. There's you change people, places, and things, and just do it.
That's huge.
And then your life will be that much easier.
And that much better. Yeah. So I'm not a huge AA or NA goer. I was when I lived at the sober house, of course, because it was a requirement. And I met a lot of amazing women, good people. It wasn't a bad thing at all. It was great. That bumper sticker slogan, people, places, and things, that's on point. And that's one that if anybody struggling wants to do anything, needs to do anything, it's that. People, places, and things. And if you don't do that, There are lots of people probably that are sober today that didn't change people, places, and things, Obviously, it's possible, but it's not
But
easy.
it's very far few in between. And it's even if you change people, places, and maybe not the things or
Yep.
vice versa or whatever, it's a little tripod.
It's an
It has to
uphill
come-
struggle.
Yeah, all has to come at once. I remember when I first got sober, I had my family intervention, and that night, I lived right down the road from my boyfriend's house at the time. I literally walked down the road and broke up with him. No two thoughts crossed my mind. I went and broke up with him, and I never once after reached out to my quote unquote best friends.
Yeah,
I didn't reach out to anyone. And you know what? Not one motherfucker reached back out to me to see how I was.
Right.
And what was going on.
Yeah, I'm not longing or missing anybody.
No.
There isn't anybody that I'm like, oh, I wish I still was friends with them. There's none of that.
Have you ever, have you ran into any of the old people that you used to run with, or?
No.
Okay, listen, I, grew up in Chittenden County and still live in Chittenden County, right?
Yeah.
I never see anyone I have ever, even went to school with. I don't see ex-boyfriends who still live in this town. I haven't ran into any of my drug dealers. I ran into one kid because he got sober. You know what I mean?
It's
other than
I don't think people actually realize, especially in the beginning or before you make the jump to recovery, right? If I think about my days on what I was doing when I was using, it was sneaky. I was in the shade. I was, going from one house to another, making sure I wasn't followed. When you're living a normal everyday life, you're not living in the shadows, know? I don't see anybody. I drive through Barrie from my house every day. I've never seen anybody that I'm like, oh, there's that person.
Yeah.
Never.
It's
never,
weird.
ever. I live on 15 acres in the sticks, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but even when you do come into town, the town's so fucking small. Any town here, it's so small, and it's like, how have I not run into these people?
I don't see anybody.
Because they're all in the shadows, fucking doing drugs.
That's no, but that's
we
true.
We change people, places, and things. We're not there.
It's so huge.
I look back and it's just like, thank God I'm not there. There's some stuff that have happened, and just with people I've known, and they have taken the turn for the worse or whatever, and it's like, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God I got it.
Yeah.
Don't know why. Don't know why my stars aligned. I don't know why everything was just catered to me at one point.
Right.
Everything
when it
fell
needed
into
to
place.
be.
Yeah. I don't know either. And it's just...
And
it's
I think
really weird to think about.
It is. And I think it really is. It's all what we make it. You know what I mean? People say yes, do the next right thing, and people, places, and things, but it's all about action. It's all about doing it.
Mindset too.
Mindset, huge. Not to feel like everybody's against you. And another huge thing is that I promise anybody who's struggling with addiction or self-doubt or loathing or anything negative, you have to believe in yourself. You have to. I never believed that I could have a life, right? A life with somebody who didn't treat me like shit. A house of my own. A family that was safe, happy, healthy. Money in the bank, a car that was legal, a license that was valid. I never thought that I could have any of that. That's was my changing moment. You know what I mean? I gave myself a chance and the opportunity to believe that I was worth having a life that was worth it.
And it's like, once you believe in yourself and you do get that one thing, right? You do work for your license, and now it's valid, and it's like, oh, okay, I did that. And now you get that satisfaction from it, and then you realize, oh, okay, wait, I can keep going, I can do this, like, so once you see one thing happen, it's like, oh, okay, let's go.
Yeah,
let's keep
and
going.
there's, as long as you're doing right things and just moving forward, like doing good deeds, or not even towards other people, for your
Right.
own life,
Right.
things move in a positive direction. And all of the I can't, what if, not possible, like get rid of them.
Right.
Like,
Sometimes I just want to slap people in the face, like, shut the fuck up.
right.
Okay, let's not play
You
victim.
are your problem. You're standing in your own way of happiness,
Literally.
of doing it.
Literally.
And that's huge. And I think that it takes people in one's life to maybe help with that in the beginning. Slogans that help, doable bucket list. That was huge for me, being surrounded by people, seeing people doing well, that's huge. It's something in my life that I, not always, but feel guilty about. I feel like I should help a little bit more. I should get out there into like meetings, or, reach out an olive branch, you know what I mean? Like, kind of help. And I don't.
Maybe you could do it in a different way. Not associate it with 12-step programs or
no,
whatever.
of course.
But, like,
what you're doing right now, what we're doing,
Yes.
That's
definitely.
that's huge. So I do wish that I reached out a little bit more to people, or to even like show up at a room and say like, hey, my life was shit and now it's not. Guess what? It's possible.
So let me ask you this. What's stopping you?
Fear, which is a useless emotion. I think that fear is like the worst one, but it's fear. I am scared that if I put myself out there, that something will happen that I can't control.
Yep.
That I'm going to bump in to that friend in the room that I used to use with and go have coffee, and somehow the direction changes that I can't control. I'm very closed off. I'm very cautious. I pay attention to how my days go and who I'm involved with, and any of it.
So if for a newcomer or someone that's starting this journey, they're like, well, if she can't do it, then how am I supposed to be able to do it? And I've never even been there before, or I don't even know what it's about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that any newcomer in the first year should even consider service or helping others.
Sit down and shut up.
Yeah, sit down,
That's what
shut
I was
up.
told.
Keep your nose down. Yeah. I don't think, I think that it's probably really difficult. It was difficult for me to be selfish because, like you said, I was selfish in a different way for so many years to myself, I didn't care about anybody that loved me. I was on a destructive path, but I had to be selfish again, which meant I needed to make sure that if a bad decision or that something bad in my life was going to happen, it was only because of me, that I was the only one to blame. Because you can't control anybody. You can't control anything, but you can control like where your body goes, what you do, and what you say. I may be thrown into a situation that's bad, but I have two legs and I can turn around and walk away.
Right. It's your actions that you can control.
That I can control. And I think that that's really important because in the beginning of sobriety, man, sometimes life just gives it to you hard, It's gonna your drug dealer's going to call and say, hey, I got some free drugs or something. You know what I mean? Like on the shittiest day that you've had since, you first took that leap into recovery. It's all of that shit happens.
Yeah, things are going to come up to trip you up.
Always.
And it's what's that next action that you're going to take, right? Or if you're thinking about drug use, it's like, okay, that's going to be your first thought. What's your second thought and what's your first action?
Yeah, totally.
That's what really matters.
It does. 100%. 100%. And I agree with that. There's a couple times a week, maybe, I don't know, other weeks more than others, but only a couple times usually, where I'll be walking the dogs and a song will come on, or I listen to books on Audible, something will come up that will remind me of my past. And like I said, I don't want to use drugs anymore. That's not part of my life today. But I have moments in my days and my weeks that make me think of the things that I did when I was using. And some of that sucks. Some of those reminiscing about old times, good or bad, it puts me in a mindset that's like, fuck, I was that person.
Yeah.
You know?
You bringing that up reminds me of when I go to a 12-step fellowship program and I sit there and it's literally the whole conversation is about alcohol.
Yeah.
Or drug use, whatever, or like our path. The entire hour is about something that I don't want to be doing. And then I'm like left there thinking about my past, about that really shitty thing I did because someone brought something up that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I did that. And then you're sitting there and thinking about, I'd never think about drug use or drinking.
No.
But when I'm in a fucking meeting.
Oh, of course.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, is this kind of
healthy?
productive?
Yeah. And I think everybody's different. And I think people's ability to be faced with their past, to overcome it, is important. For me, that's not part of my story. I mean, it is and it isn't. I go to counseling. I went to counseling every week for a year and a half. And now, 3 years in, I go every other week. It's one thing that I don't mess with. Even my counselor was like, we can do like every month. I'm like, nope, I'll see you every 2 weeks. So meetings are not what worked for me. The program is not what worked for me. But meeting people and hearing stories on occasion were helpful, to not feel alone and to know that you're not the only piece of shit that made bad decisions. You need to be reminded of that sometimes, I promise you, you're not the only one that did that.
Right, you're not alone.
Yeah.
So I feel like you and I are like the prime examples of like, okay, it didn't work for you. AA saved my fucking life. You know what I mean? So there's right here is a prime example that there are multiple ways.
Oh, of course.
To go through with recovery. I mean, it saved my life. I did it for 5.5 years and now I choose not to do it.
Right.
And I have other avenues that I do or other things. You have counseling, I do this, or I don't want to associate work with active recovery, but my job as a recovery coach allows me to problem solve.
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean? So there's other avenues now that I'm able to open up to because I gotta change things up a little bit to accommodate my growth.
Things that work at one point in your life, in your recovery, may not work at another one. I mean, people, myself included, are always changing and always growing and becoming better. Sometimes some people becoming worse, who knows? But, dependent on the situation that you're given, that's how you deal with your life. And I think that that's a huge part of recovery, being able to kind of go with the flow, to deal with the punches that are thrown to you and to take them and let them go. I, as a person, am very good, whether it's good or bad, am really good at compartmentalizing things. And I'm really good at out of sight, out of mind. Which is a great tool, but sometimes it's not. Like, for reasons that it's not, if it's not right in front of me, I don't deal with it, So if I don't see that basket of laundry on the floor, if it's behind the bed, I'm not going to deal with it.
Right.
So it was easy for me to not have my recovery at one point. We're talking like a year and a half in, not right there, right in the front, not being reminded every day. That's what worked for me. And I choose today to continue to not live in the past. If that's not helpful for me. I believe that I have worked through my past, my addiction, in a way that I've let it go. Yeah, that's it. I'm done. I'm out. I lived that life for 10 years and I don't need to be reminded of what I did. It doesn't do anybody any good. It's not going to help. It's not going to help anybody. It's not going to help me. So I'm out. I'm good, But it's super helpful to people. Meetings, I think, are super important for newcomers and other people, but especially newcomers to have a place to go to start a routine. And routines are huge. They still are in my day, every day. I am a creature of habit.
Yep.
Holy moly. I mean, there is no sneaking around for me. It it just won't happen. I can't do it. I'm like an oddball if I've changed my routine.
Yep. It has to be. And like, if I start something new, it has to be this way. And if it's messed up one day, I'm like, fuck it, we'll start again next week.
Yeah.
I'm out of rhythm.
Yeah. I'm the same exact way.
Yeah.
And it makes it it makes it very difficult for me to try new things, to accomplish things that are difficult for me. And it's, again, not good, not bad. But it's really difficult for me to try new things. It's really difficult for me to like build the momentum to keep doing something. I do know, I have learned that if I stick with it, it then becomes much easier and very doable. But getting started, it's really difficult for me. A couple people, multiple people have asked me, if I would change anything. There's I don't know, I think it's on Facebook or Instagram or something like that, where a meme, is that what it's called? A meme pops up like red pill or blue pill, and the red pill is, you get to take the red pill and you're born at age 10, or the blue pill is, $20 million or something like that. And there are many different answers, but for me, right, I would take the money, but I wouldn't. Yeah. I am who I am today because of everything that I went through. It was horrible. There are some things, obviously, that I really wish that I could take back and I could change. The main one being my son. And that's for him. That's not for me. I mean, it is for me, but I wish that he didn't ever have to go through that or experience it. Thankfully, he's 13 now, but he was 10, and then, it wasn't, I think I just slipped by on the timeline on the age with that, but that would be the only reason that I would want to go back, because I am who I am today. I can deal with a lot, and I don't let it shake me, define me, rock me.
You just know that it's gonna pass.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to deal with it as it is and wait, like when you need to problem solve, you're going to do everything you need to do and you're going to just wait. Like if you're getting your license, right? You're going to get all your paperwork set in stone. You're going to send it up. That's all you can fucking do. There's nothing else you can do. Right? Now you got to wait for the next process to occur, for someone else to process that paperwork.
Yeah.
And, like you take each step as it is, and then you wait calmly and not overthink what the next step might be, and just take it when it comes.
Yeah. And I agree with that statement wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Well, before it's like,
It's too much.
It's too much. I have to fucking deal with it all right now.
And it's just too much.
The next steps, fuck that. I'm going to get it all figured out now. And then it doesn't get figured out because the next steps you can't control. And then you get discouraged and you just don't fucking do it.
And you don't do any of it. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's something that comes if you give yourself a chance to do things. It comes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You're able to complete things that were difficult at one point. You can solve problems. You can be in a difficult situation and deal with it. At least I can, you know? I can't speak for other people, of course. But to give yourself a chance to do it, it's really difficult for me to think of people who are struggling with drug addiction. It really sucks. I wish that I could just like take my situation and just like plop it on somebody.
Right.
But I
like,
know that
here's
that's
my knowledge.
Right.
Let me suck this out and give it to you.
Yeah.
Like, it's
so huge.
It is. Sometimes I can't, like, yes, I through and through am a drug addict and alcoholic, but sometimes I'm like, am I really? Because I got it really easily. You know what I mean? Like, I never went to rehab. I had a higher bottom than others. You know what I mean? And it's like, how did I get it? And how did this person not get it? And they, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Makes me question.
It's really difficult, and I think that it has a huge part is where you are in your life. I think that unfortunately, the longer you're in it, the harder it is to get out of it. And I'm grateful, man, that I got in trouble. I wish that I never got in trouble, but I really don't know if I would be sitting here today talking to you if I didn't get in trouble. So everybody's bottom is different, but I'm pretty sure that you know that if you drank a beer, you wouldn't stop. And I'm pretty sure if I tried heroin again, I wouldn't be able to stop. And that's it. It doesn't matter how you got here, how I got here. Those two things are the same.
Exactly. Well, listen, I've never, at least I don't believe, I'm sure it could have popped in somewhere, but like I have never actively used heroin.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to use heroin, I would continue to use heroin or therefore pick up some other things along the way. Like that's why just do it once? Might as well just fucking keep going.
Yeah.
I'm already here.
And I do agree with that. Let's say 50%. Okay. And this is because I really don't think there are other people, right, who had a fucking shit hand from like the get-go.
Yep.
But I don't know about drug use or drinking today because I don't hate who I am and I don't hate my life. So I don't know if I did drugs, if I would continue to use them because I'm not unhappy. I was unhappy when I was, using an active addiction and my life was the way it was because I used drugs. I didn't like wake up one day and say like, hey, I'm going to be a heroin addict and that's what I want to be. I think that it continued for 10 plus years, right? Because I was so broken and so unhappy and so consumed by everything that people had done to me in my life. So I don't know.
Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about before when you and your significant other were talking about if you walked into a room with drugs. I think that's where it lies.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I were to get to the point where I was going to pick up a drink or a drug, then yes, I believe I would keep going.
Yes.
But right now,
yes.
I have bottles of booze up there because Dane drinks. He's not a heavy drinker.
Oh, we have booze at our house.
Like, there's booze up there. I never once think about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not at that point.
Right. Yeah. And
but if I was, I know
you wouldn't be able
as
to
an
stop.
alcoholic, why would I pick it up?
Yeah. No,
I'm going to pick it up because I'm going to drink.
Yes. Yes.
And why am
right.
I'm not going to drink it for the taste because it tastes fucking gross. So I'm going to keep going, right? So if I were at that point, then yes, but I'm not.
And I think that that's huge. And I think that people need to
recognize that.
Yeah, they need to recognize it, and there needs to be more light kind of shown on that aspect of recovery, that like a happy life, a good situation. And I think that AA and NA, they put those pieces in there, right? They put no relationships for a year for a reason, but they don't explain it. You know?
Yes, I do know.
They
what you
put
mean.
like these rules in
unwritten rules
in the books, in the bumper stickers, in the people who have 10, 20, 30 years, right? But they're not explained. And it's not the relationship, it's the fact that you don't love yourself enough in the beginning to let somebody treat you the way that you need to be treated, because you don't know how you need to be treated. You don't know what your life is going to be. So no relationships. You know, there's no healthy relationship in the beginning because you don't know who you are.
Right.
And that's not brought up. Or at least I don't think it is.
Nope.
There are so many rules that are not brought up that are just like, they're these hard lines. And if you do them or break them, you're out. You got to start over. Go get that white key tag, you know? Yeah, I'm so grateful for all of it. Good, bad, indifferent, you know. Life has been...
Did you have a lot of resentment for the charges you picked up?
Yeah. Not a lot. I have resentment towards the justice system, and that's... We would need a whole nother, you know, however much time. But in a little bit of it, I have resentment because I don't know for sure, but I'm 95% positive that the reason I got in trouble is because another drug addict was getting out of trouble. And that's not right or fair. My life shouldn't ruin because somebody else wants to give me up whose life is ruined. It's just like this really tangled piece that's not fair. It's not fair that if my mother didn't pay my bail, I could still be in jail today. That's not right.
But looking at hindsight, right? Like, good thing that you used me as bait to get out of your... Because now...
Oh, yeah, of course. And that's, you know what I mean? Like, that's me switching my thought process.
Exactly.
I'm, at the end of the day, there are resentments that I have, but altogether, as a whole, I'm grateful.
Yep. Like, that's what it was before. So, like, for me, when I got my drug possession, there were multiple people involved, and I straight out said, I'll take the blame. And that sat really heavy with me for years. Like, why the fuck didn't anyone step up?
Right.
Like, there were certain things on other humans that was a lot more than that was found on me. You know what I mean? Like, I knew more than what the cops knew. And it's like, why didn't they get it? Like, why aren't they in trouble? Why aren't they doing what I'm doing? And then it's like that mind shifted of like, oh, okay, thank you. Right. Thank you for not fucking speaking up. Thank you for kind of being a piece of shit.
And you realize, right, that worked for you, that made your life better, that the ability to not hold on to that resentment and anger is better for you, you know? And I think that a lot of people hold on to anger and resentments and the way that they're treated as a kid or the beginning of adult. Like, I had so many bad moments that I wish I could hold on to and be angry forever, but I did, and I don't hold on to them anymore. I don't hold on to the grudges that I had. My dad and I were really, really close, and throughout my entire drug addiction, I pretty much didn't talk to him for like 10 years. I hadn't seen my dad in 10 years.
Yeah.
And that fucked me up more than I think I even have begun to dive into. But my dad came and stayed with Tim and I at our house in September, and that was it. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of bad things that he did, that I did, whatever. It doesn't matter. I can't change it, you know? And I do that with everything. And maybe it's not healthy or not right, but there's no point in hanging on to it. You know, like resenting people for something that they did that would have made my life easier at the time, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also think it's like, trauma. People get hung up on a lot of trauma, not like trauma in a different way of like sexual abuse or like physical abuse. People hold on to that trauma, and I don't want to say this lightly, but it's like we don't have to hold on to that.
No. You're doing damage. I feel
Yes.
that a person is doing more damage to themselves by holding on to it. Yeah.
That's, like you said, that could be a whole nother episode.
Of course.
And it's,
of course.
everyone keep in mind that this entire podcast is our own opinions.
Yes, and own situations. Of course, everybody could probably shame us down to nothing.
Yeah, or completely agree.
Yeah.
Or, just always remember everything we say is our opinions. And we're just sharing that.
Right.
But I feel like we have
some good ones.
A fucking lot.
Right.
And I feel like we could just keep going.
Of course.
I really do. But let's start wrapping it up. I got a few rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
What makes you happy?
Oh. My dogs. My peppermint tea.
What a wraparound.
I know, right? Right? Always. Yeah. My dogs, peppermint tea, knitting. And I'm able to sit next to Tim and not talk.
I love it.
Yeah.
What a joy.
Yeah, it's great.
It's the little things in life. Now, when we were in active addiction, I best believe none of that would interest me.
Yeah, I was not waiting 3 minutes for a kettle to boil.
No. No, you don't have fucking time.
I didn't have a kettle.
Yeah, I didn't even
or
have a
peppermint
stove.
tea. Right.
Who's your biggest influence?
Wow.
Not so rapid, huh?
Not so rapid. Yeah, sorry. My biggest influence? Yeah, this is going to sound bad. It's myself.
Why do you think that's going to sound bad?
I don't know. Stigma, probably. Being selfish. Again, I wholeheartedly, that it's me.
I haven't thought of that to be an answer, and I love it.
Yeah,
you can look at it in so many different ways when you actually think of that answer.
Yeah, it's me.
I love it.
For sure. Thank you.
That's mine too. If you could give one piece of advice, what would it be?
I tell this actually to my son, and I say that don't let others' mistakes define your life. You know? Mm-hmm. Like I tell him that you're not allowed to make my mistakes run your life.
Your issue, yeah.
Yeah.
What's one affirmation that you wish you told yourself more often?
I'm worth it. Yeah, for sure.
And lastly, what's something you want to accomplish?
I want to own my own something. I don't know what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. I hope that in 10 years, I am my own boss.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm going to do it. I don't care if I'm like, I don't know what, right? Because I have no idea, but I'm going to do it. And I may not be successful, but I know.
It's what you make of it, right? It's
yeah,
your
that's
mindset.
Right. Yeah.
You could start now and you could be your boss next week.
I could 100%.
That's what I did.
There's, you know what? If you don't risk it, you don't gain.
What are you going to lose?
Right. That's it. If you don't risk life, whatever, money, goals, you got to put it out there and you just got to do it. If there's no risk, there's no reward.
That's right.
That's right. This has been fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Why has it taken us so long to like reconnect?
Because I live in the middle of
You
nowhere
really
and I don't go anywhere. That's it. I keep to myself. But this has been great, and I hope that whoever listens to it gets something from it, you know, and hard work, being determined, and not giving up, and being worth recovery is important.
You get far.
You get really far. I can't stress enough. My life is amazing.
Your entire story has been like all hope.
Oh, good.
You spent like 2 minutes talking about the past, and then you just shifted completely. And
That's my life.
Exactly. That's how it went for you, right? And
That's
it's all growth. That's all you've been talking about, and all the good that has come from it. Yeah, there's little bad parts, but
Oh, it was huge. But I don't wallow in it.
and you showed that through
Yeah.
through your chat today.
Why, thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, my love. We're out. Bye.